thank you for joining us at another year of Pool School Online. Last year's event was such a success, we decided to keep Pool School online again this year. Here at Energy Center Manhattan Pool, we want to make sure to provide you with all the tools and knowledge you need to properly maintain your pool. So we're here to share some of our best practices with you, offer some prizes and some discounts too. Here's how we're going to do this. Post your greeting as you arrive. Let us know you're here. We have a staff monitoring all incoming messages during this event. So if you have any questions, post them at any time. We'll have someone respond and take care of whatever you need. We'll have an hour-long presentation prepared by our friends at Bioguard. The presentation is broken down into some smaller sections, and we'll break in between the sections to welcome new people to Pool School and post a winner for our prize giveaways. If you want a chance of winning a prize, post a comment. We do random drawings from whoever posts comments during Pool School. If you don't post, you can't win. And remember, you earn 25 loyalty points with our exclusive new rewards program for attending tonight. Let's go ahead and get started. Remember, we're available to answer your questions as you post them.
Hello and welcome to Bioguard Pool School. Today we're going to talk about the very basics of your swimming pool, the anatomy, and then we're going to focus in on the products and programs that will make owning a pool the very best experience that it can be for you. So let's get started. Our main objective for Pool School is to make sure that you have all the information and the knowledge that you need to be ready for a summer full of backyard memories. So we're going to cover why Bioguard is the best choice for you. We're going to talk a little bit about your pool anatomy so that you understand all the parts and pieces that go into making your pool function. We're going to talk about some keys to taking care of your pool, why water balance is important, and finally we're going to focus in on creating a maintenance or a pool care system that makes keeping your pool clean and clear and ready for swimming the easiest possible thing you can do. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. Let's start with a look at why Bioguard. What does Bioguard offer you that makes owning your pool the best experience that it can possibly be? Well, there's a couple of different reasons for that. First of all, Bioguard is proud to be partnered with the very best pool and spa professionals in the industry. So you are getting great proven products, innovation, pool care programs backed by the very best pool care professionals in the industry. So you are getting the very best care and direction and guidance that you could possibly get as you take care of your pool and get ready for your summer. On top of that, we have state-of-the-art water analysis software that provides an easy step-by-step prescription to follow in order to keep your pool well-balanced, sanitized, and ready for swimming. We vow to give you the right product in the right amount at the right time. And as long as we're doing that and you're receiving that, your pool is going to be clean, it's going to be clear, and it's going to provide the expected environment in your backyard, which is ready for swimming. So let's take a quick look at how your pool works, the actual anatomy of what makes up your pool. So there's two sides to a pool equipment system. You have the suction side and the pressure side, and it all kind of centers around your pump. And the pump is kind of like your heart. So in your body, in the human body, the heart's job is to pull blood in and then push blood out the opposite side, right? So it pulls blood in from the body after it's been oxygenated and then pushes it out to the body so the body can use it. And that's really what the pump does in the pool. It, on the suction side, sucks water out of the pool, and that happens either through your skimmer or a main drain, depending on what type of pool that you have. But you suck water out of the pool, and it passes through the pump and filter, and then on the pump, and on the other side, the pump then starts pushing the water back into the pool, and that's when you have turned over to the pressure side. So as the pump pushes that water back towards the pool, it's going to be passing through all of the components that make up your equipment pad. So it's going to pass through the filter first so we can remove as much dirt and debris as we possibly can. After the filter, if you have a heater, it will pass through there, and then followed in the last in line, which would be your sanitizer. And this would either be a salt cell, maybe if you had a salt pool, or if you have a chlorinator of any kind plumbed into your equipment pad, then this is where you would find it. Once the water gets pushed through there, it goes through the rest of the plumbing and then gets returned to the pool through the actual return jets. So it's really a pretty simple process. It's a circular process, but the very heartbeat of the system, or what drives that, is the actual pool pump. The movement of water in your pool is very important, but it's really just one of the keys that it takes to really maintain your pool properly. There's actually what we call the 5 keys to pool care. And those keys are circulation, filtration, cleaning, chemistry, and testing. And those 5 keys, if you focus in on them and you meet the needs of each key, that is what it takes to keep your pool clean and clear. Now, we're a chemical company, right? So we want to sell you a chemical to solve every problem and do everything you possibly need in your pool. However, just adding chemicals is never going to be enough to keep your pool the way it's supposed to be. You have to focus in on all 5 keys. It is important to circulate the water and filter the water, and we're going to look a little deeper into that. Next, cleaning is important, testing is important, chemistry is a big part of it, but you have to have all of these 5 keys working together in order to truly maintain your pool. So key number 1 is circulation, and we talked a little bit about circulation when we looked at the pool anatomy, but I want to give just a little bit more information about it. So ideally, your pool would be running circulating water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, I know not everybody wants to do that. They want to save energy, etc. So at a minimum, we want your pump running 10 to 12 hours per day. Now, if you're troubleshooting for any reason, trying to kill algae, clean up cloudy water, whatever you might be doing, 24 hours a day is really necessary to get problems cleared up. But then, if you have your pool to a place where it's clean, clear, and running smoothly, you can back it off to 10 to 12 hours a day if you need to. But the point of circulation is to move water around the pool. And that's going to accomplish a couple of things. 1, key number 2 is filtration. And without circulation moving the water through the pool, no water passes through the filter to be treated by the filter. So if we're not circulating, we're not filtering. The second part is you have to circulate the water in order to disperse the chemicals that you're adding. Whether you're adding them through a feeder or a floater, you're broadcasting them into the pool, however you're putting chemicals in order to mix them up and disperse them through the pool water evenly, you have to circulate the water. So effective circulation is a key to maintaining a good looking pool, to make sure that it's balanced, to get the chemicals where they're supposed to be, and to filter effectively. So it's kind of the starting place for the keys to pool care. Now, just to reiterate, a minimum of 10 to 12 hours a day. And that's because we need your water to turn over in the pool. And that just means the volume of water that's in your pool passes through the filter in X number of hours. And that's a turnover. So 1 turnover, which is about 6 hours in a residential pool, will only filter about 42% of your water. That's not a lot. You're leaving a lot of dirt and debris behind at that point. So 2 turnovers, which is where you're getting to when you're running your pump 12 hours a day, will filter about 84%. Much better number. You're going to have water that looks a lot better because you're filtering a lot more of it. 3 turnovers are about 18 hours of pump run time, and you're filtering 95%. And then 4 turnovers, or 24 hours a day, you're going to filter about 98%. You're never going to filter all the water. There are dead spots and places in the pool where water just doesn't move unless swimmers are in there moving it around. So you don't expect to filter 100%, but 98% is good enough for sure if you're trying to troubleshoot or just keep your pool looking clear. One other thing about circulation is those return jets. A lot of times we see them pointed up over the surface of the water. People like the way they look. They disturb the surface of the water. They look like a jet coming out, and people like to look at that. But in reality, the most effective way to circulate your water is to point those return jets down and at a 45-degree angle to the right or the left. Just point them all the same direction if you have more than one. And that's going to create the absolute best circulation pattern you can have for your pool. The second key to pool care is kind of joined at the hip to circulation, and that's filtration. The purpose of filtration is to remove stuff, garbage, dirt, debris, etc., from the water. This helps keep the water clear, and it helps keep products that you're adding for your pool maintenance program, it helps keep them working effectively. So a couple of things to know about filtration. There's 3 basic types of filters. You will either have a sand filter, a cartridge filter, or DE. Regardless of what type you have, and if you don't know, your Bioguard Pool Care professional can help you figure out what you have and what you need. But regardless of which type of filter you have, there's some maintenance that has to be done. First of all, you're going to backwash or rinse your filter periodically. If it's a sand filter, you backwash, and that's driven by your pressure gauge that's on top of the sand filter. When it gets to about 10 psi above what your normal pressure is, that's when it's telling you it's time to rinse or backwash. For a cartridge filter, routinely you're going to pull out the cartridge and rinse it off with a garden hose. Do not use a high pressure hose, it will damage the filter media. And a DE filter, you're going to routinely rinse off the DE grids and bump it or add more DE to it. Now, along with that, a couple of times a season, you are going to want to chemically clean your filter with products called Strip Quick and Clean It. And these 2 products work together to remove built-in grease and oil and scale and dirt and debris, things that regular rinsing won't remove. It's like taking a shower. If you take a shower, but you don't use any soap, you just rinse off, you get cleaner than you were, but you didn't really get completely clean. Eventually, you're going to have to use some soap and lather up in order to get truly clean. And it's the same concept with your filter. You're eventually going to have to use some soap, filter cleaners, to completely clean your filter media and make sure it's working effectively. Now, on top of this, if you want to keep as much stuff out of your filter or lighten the load on your filter as much as possible, you can use a product called Skimmer. And Skimmer is this blue kind of a nylon sock that stretches out over the top of your skimmer basket. And it does 2 things. It serves as a pre-filter, so it's going to catch some of the small dirt and debris that would otherwise pass through your skimmer basket and end up in your filter. So it's going to catch some of that. In addition to that, the Skimmer is infused with a product called Mycelex. And what Mycelex does is it absorbs oils and greases. It's the same thing that you use when you have like an oil spill in the ocean. You see those big booms go out and try to soak up the oil. That is Mycelex, and that's the same thing that is infused in the Skimmer. So adding the Skimmer will help catch some of the grease and oil before it ever reaches your filter, and it will help catch some of the small debris to make it so you have less of a buildup on your filter, which leads to rinsing less often and cleaning less often. So it's really important to take care of your filter because you are relying on it to remove dirt and debris to the best of its ability. That is our second key to pool care. Key number 3 is cleaning, and this is something that no one really wants to do, right? Cleaning encompasses a couple of different things in your pool. First of all, regular maintenance, vacuuming, brushing, skimming off dirt and debris. All of those things have to be done on at least a weekly basis in order to truly take care of your pool. Now, I get a lot of people that say, I don't brush my pool very often. It doesn't look like it needs it. And I will say this, you should be brushing your pool once a week. It's going to help prevent the buildup of biofilm, protect the pool surface, and it's going to keep things stirred up so your water is circulating better. But one thing I like to use an analogy for that is, have you ever gotten up in the morning and you don't brush your teeth? I know it's gross, right? But you don't brush your teeth and you look at them, your teeth look fine. But towards the end of the day, you run your tongue over your teeth and you can feel, I like to call it sweaters, but you have fuzz on your teeth, right? You can feel that, you know they need to be brushed. But if you looked in the mirror and smiled real big, you wouldn't see any of that on your teeth. Your teeth would look just fine. It's the same concept with your pool. There's fuzz or sweaters on your pool surface that needs to be brushed away, even if you can't visibly see it. So brushing is a vital part of regular pool maintenance. We have a couple chemicals to help with cleaning. First of all, we have our Off the Wall, and this is a surface cleaner that is formulated to work well within your pool chemistry. Okay, so it's going to It won't impact your water chemistry at all. It won't impact your water balance, but it's going to go in and help you get buildup off your pool surface. So you can put it directly on the brush, you can put it directly on the pool surface, and then brush over anything that might be built up. The second product that we have that's good for cleaning is a product called Stowaway. And Stowaway is meant to help you clean and store your cover. So you store your winter cover in the summer, and you store your solar cover in the winter. And as you're putting it away, if you're putting Stowaway in the folds and the creases as you're folding up the cover, you'll find it doesn't mold, it doesn't mildew, it doesn't stick together. You can actually put the cover away wet. You don't have to wait for it to dry. And it's going to help just keep it clean. And when you pull it out next season, it'll be ready to go. Stowaway is also great for wiping down things like your patio furniture. If you ever put it in storage and you bring it out and it's kind of mildewy, if you wipe that down with Stowaway, you'll find that you don't get the mildew built up on it. So cleaning, while it's not the most fun part of pool care maintenance, it is an important part of pool care maintenance. The fourth key to pool care is testing. And we're just going to kind of generalize about testing because, in all honesty, the best testing you can get is to bring your water sample to your Bioguard dealer and let them run it on their high-tech, state-of-the-art testing equipment and our Alex water testing software that will give you a full view of what's going on in your pool and what you need to do to maintain it. So what I really want to focus in on is what is a good water sample to test. There's a couple things you need to be aware of. First of all, to take a good sample, you want to go elbow deep into the pool before you get the water. Second of all, you want to stay away from your return jets. So get out to a part of the pool where the return jets aren't blowing water directly into that space. That's going to get you a good representative sample of the water that's not just been treated and put right back into the pool. So bring that to your Bioguard dealer at least once a month, if not more often, to make sure you're getting full-on water testing done. Now, at home, you want to keep an eye at least on your chlorine and your pH on a fairly regular basis. You can do that with test strips, you can do that with a test kit, whatever you have is fine, but you want to make sure that you are keeping an eye on your chlorine residual and your pH to make sure your pool is safe for swimming. Key number 5 is chemistry, and this takes a little bit more of an in-depth discussion, and this is really the part that scares most pool owners. It's not scary, I promise. And at Bioguard, we've done everything we possibly can to make it as simple as possible for you to keep your chemistry balanced and keep your pool ready for swimming. So there's kind of two parts to chemistry. One is your overall water balance, and then the second part is your sanitizing and oxidizing. So we're going to tackle them separately. But first of all, let's talk about water balance. There's really 3 major components that we're focused on when we're balancing water chemistry: pH, alkalinity, and calcium hardness. Now, TDS is something that we look at periodically, but your Bioguard dealer will do that for you in their monthly water test using Alex. And all of these things contribute to the saturation index, which is an overall water balance parameter that tells you if the pool is scale forming, if it's corrosive, or if it's neutral or pretty well balanced. But let's dig into the big 3, which are pH, alkalinity, and calcium hardness.
Okay, thank you for joining us to the first session of Pool School. If you have any questions on what you've heard, simply post a comment and someone will respond. For those of you who have just joined us, welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're about to announce our first winner of the prize drawing. To make sure you're entered, you have to post a message and let us know you're here. And of course, questions posted count as well. The next session of Pool School will cover pool water chemistry, and following that, we'll speak on different pool care systems. Enjoy!
Why is water balance important? Well, for a lot of different reasons, really. First and foremost, we want to make sure that the swimmers using the pool are comfortable, and the components of water balance, especially pH, have a huge impact on that. In addition, we want to make sure that the equipment that the homeowner has invested so much money in lasts as long as possible. Out of balance water can ruin a heater, it can eat through a pump, it can cause a lot of damage to pool equipment and cause you to have to replace it a lot sooner than you otherwise would have had to if the water had stayed in balance. In addition, water balance will affect the clarity of the water, and we're always striving to have crystal clear water. And finally, you want to make sure that the sanitizer you're using on a maintenance basis is as effective as possible, and keeping the water in balance has a big impact on that. So let's talk about pH. pH is just a measure of how acidic or basic the overall water chemistry is. We want it to be somewhere in the neutral range between 7.4 and 7.6. But pH it's kind of quirky, because if you say what causes pH to change, the short answer is really everything causes pH to change. Chemicals, rain, oils, algae, waste, swimmers, anything that enters the water can cause pH to change. And that can make it difficult to keep pH where you want it to be. Now, out of balance pH causes some problems, right? Low pH means the water is very acidic and can burn the eyes, which is, we talked about swimmer comfort on the last slide. If pH is on the high side, water becomes very basic. It tends to be cloudy, and your sanitizer tends to get lazy and not do its job correctly when pH is on the high side. So we want to make sure we keep it balanced, ideally in that 7.4 to 7.6 range. So that's where total alkalinity comes in. Total alkalinity has one job in the pool, and that is to keep pH where you want it to be. So we want our pH to be between 7.4 and 7.6. And we just said that just about anything that enters the water can cause the pH to change. So the whole point of total alkalinity is to protect the pH and make sure all of those things entering the water, the chemicals, the rain, the oils, the algae, the bather waste, whatever it is, total alkalinity makes sure that doesn't impact the pH reading constantly. So the total alkalinity absorbs all of those things that would otherwise cause the pH to change, and the pH stays where it's supposed to. So picture it like this. Say that pH is a boat on a lake, and you want the boat to stay in a particular area. So what do? You throw out an anchor, right? So the anchor is like the total alkalinity. It's going to hold the boat, it's going to hold the pH where you want it to be. Now, it's going to move around a little bit. The boat will swing around a little bit on the end of the anchor line. Your pH will move a little bit in the pool. However, for the most part, the boat can't really go anywhere. And the pH can't really go anywhere because the alkalinity is holding it where you want it to be. So balancing your alkalinity is an important piece of your pool care maintenance, because you need it to hold the pH in place, and you need the pH to stay balanced in order to make sure that you're not damaging your equipment or making your swimmers uncomfortable. If your pH or your alkalinity is out of balance, we have plenty of things that can help with that. And getting your water tested and using our Alex computerized water testing software will give you the exact amounts of these products that you might need in order to bring your pool back to balance. So our low and slow will lower both your pH and your alkalinity if necessary. And then our Balance Pack 100 will increase your alkalinity if necessary, and Balance Pack 200 will increase your pH if necessary. But again, have your water tested and know that Alex is going to tell you exactly how much of these products you might need if your water is out of balance. The final water balance parameter that we want to take a look at is calcium. And calcium is important for a couple of different reasons. First of all, if your calcium is too low, water gets very, very aggressive. You can see at the picture on the left that pool surface, that's a plaster pool surface, is actually being eaten away by the water as it tries to find enough calcium to balance itself out. So low calcium hardness means your plaster is going to deteriorate, and you can end up corroding metal surfaces, etc., as water looks to balance itself as far as calcium is concerned. On the other side of that, if you have too much calcium in the water, water tends to get cloudy, and it forms scale very easily as the calcium starts to fall out of solution. Water can only hold on to so much calcium, and when there's too much of it, it starts to fall out of solution and cause a whole different set of problems. So balancing your calcium, either low or high, is an important part to keeping the pool clear, and again, protecting that investment, protecting the pool itself from damage. Balancing calcium can be a little bit tricky. If you have low calcium hardness, it's fairly simple. You add a product called Balance Pack 300, and you can add calcium to the water to the correct level. Again, Alex is going to tell you how much of that you might need to put in the water. And once you balance calcium, it's not something that moves around a lot, so it's not something that you're going to balance on a weekly or really even a monthly basis. Once you get it pretty much balanced, it's going to stay. Now, on the flip side of that, if your calcium hardness level is too high, then you have a little bit of a different problem. You can't take calcium out of the water once it's in the water. So when your calcium level is too high in a pool, you have to put in a product called scale inhibitor in order to hang on to that calcium and keep it from falling out of solution. It doesn't go away. You're not actually physically removing it from the pool. So if you tested it again, you would still test high for calcium. But adding scale inhibitor on a monthly basis will go in. It will help the water hold on to that calcium so it doesn't fall out of solution, doesn't cause scale, and it doesn't cause cloudy water. So if you have a high calcium reading, using scale inhibitor is something that you're going to have to do on a maintenance basis, usually once a month, in order to keep that calcium in solution and keep it from causing a problem. Just to recap, here are the water balance parameters that you're aiming for. You want your chlorine level to be between 1 and 4 parts per million, and we'll talk more about that when we get into sanitizing. You want your pH to be between 7.4 and 7.6, a little more range in a salt pool, 7.2 to 7.8 if that's what you have, but you really do want to work on keeping it in that range. Just a fun note, the pH of the human eye is 7.5. So if you balance between 7.4 and 7.6, you can swim in the pool, you can open your eyes, you can dive for pennies or whatever, and when you get out, your eyes don't sting, they're not red, and they're not bloodshot. Total alkalinity, ideally between 125 and 150. If it's a salt pool, again, you can drop down to about 80 on the low side, but still between that and 150. And finally, we want your calcium hardness level to be between 175 and 275. Now, Alex is going to do all of this for you. It's going to balance it out. It's going to tell you what you need to do to make adjustments in order to hit these ideal ranges.
Once again, thanks for joining us. We just finished a session introducing Bioguard chemicals and learning some fascinating stuff about pool water chemistry. Just ahead, we'll look at the various pool care systems we have available for you, and then we'll conclude with a session on saltwater care. If you have any questions of what you've heard, simply post and someone will respond. For those of you who've just joined us, welcome. We're about to announce our second winner of the evening. For a prize drawing, to enter this drawing, make sure you posted a message and let us know you're here. And yes, questions count just as well. Feel free to shop online or store anytime during or after pool school. Let's resume with pool care systems.
Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. Pool care systems. Trust me when I say it's not that hard. We are going to make it as easy as possible for you to do very simple steps in order to take care of your pool on a weekly basis. So, we have what we call the 3-step care system. Now, the 3 steps have very important jobs in the pool. Step number 1 is to sanitize the water to kill bacteria. Step number 2 is to oxidize the water in order to clean up contaminants and help keep it clear. And step number 3 is to prevent algae. We have some different options for these steps that we're going to talk through, but always remember these 3 steps are the non-negotiable parts of pool care, and they are the 3 steps that you need to make sure you do on a regular maintenance basis in order to keep the pool clean and clear. As is logical, let's start with step number 1, killing bacteria and sanitizing the water. Why is that important? Well, the process of killing bacteria and algae and sanitizing the water is what helps protect swimmers from disease. So if you want your bathers or swimmers to be safe swimming in the pool, step number 1 is what helps do that. So step 1, sanitizing, keeps the water clean and clear, kills bacteria, also kills algae, and you want to make sure that that sanitizer residual is always between 1 and 4 parts per million. This gives you enough sanitizer, probably chlorine, quite honestly. That's what is the most common sanitizer for pools. So it gives you enough chlorine in the water to kill bacteria and still have some left behind to kill the next round of bacteria that might get introduced. So 1 to 4 parts per million, something that you're going to need to check at home on probably a weekly or twice a week basis at least to make sure that you have enough sanitizer at all times. The Bioguard Premium option for step number 1 is a product called SilkGuard Complete. SilkGuard Complete comes in either a stick or a tab form. You'll find that the sticks last a little bit longer than the tablets do. And this is a premium product because it has something called SilkGuard and SmartGuard technology blended into it. Now we're going to show you what those two things do in the next slide, but SiltGuard Complete is ideal for use in any feeder, floater, or skimmer. So no matter how you are sanitizing your pool, SiltGuard Complete can be used for that. It's going to give you soft water. It lasts longer than any other tab or stick that you'll find in the market, and it has some algae prevention blended into it. 1 pound per 10,000 gallons weekly, so that's 2 tablets per 10,000 gallons weekly, is a typical dosage for SiltGuard Complete. So let's take a look at what makes it unique. SiltGuard and SmartGuard technology are what make our SiltGuard Complete product unique and the very best on the market. So what are the benefits of the SiltGuard technology specifically? Well, adding that to your chlorine, remember, this is a chlorine tab or a chlorine stick, so its number one job is sanitizing, which it does a really good job of. But in addition to that, the SiltGuard technology helps make your water feel softer and smooth. It helps reduce scale formation, which is going to protect your equipment and keep you from having problems with the buildup of scale. And it's going to help your equipment last longer. So you're going to replace less often and add another layer of protection against damage. All of this is just blended into your sanitizer. So you are accomplishing your number one goal, which is killing bacteria, and you're getting this extra on top of that. Now, SiltGuard Complete also has SmartGuard technology. And what SmartGuard technology does is it actually slows down the dissolution of the stick or tablet, specifically when you put it in the skimmer, when the pump is not running. This is going to help it last longer than ordinary sticks or pucks, and you're not wasting chlorine that you're dissolving while the pump's not running and moving it around the pool. So between the SiltGuard technology and the SmartGuard technology, this is not your average sanitizer. It sanitizes the water very effectively, but it offers so much more. Moving on to step 2. Oxidizing. Why is step 2 important? Well, it's important for a couple of different reasons, but really the point of oxidizing the pool is to remove contaminants, and removing contaminants helps keep the water clear. It also helps your sanitizer work more efficiently, and it just helps create an overall better water quality in the body of the pool. This will help prevent problems before they ever begin. So shocking the pool or oxidizing the pool weekly to remove waste is a key element to your pool care program. Now I get a lot of questions. Isn't shocking just the same as adding sanitizer, but you're adding more of it? And I want to say that the process of shocking, while you might still be using chlorine, again, as your step 2 product, it is quite different than sanitizing, and it is an element that you want to make sure you do on a weekly basis. Smart Shock is our premium step 2 product. And Smart Shock is something that we've had for quite a while now, but it really is the best product to accomplish what you're trying to do with step number 2. So this is a chlorine-based product, but it is a blended product. It also has clarifiers, buffers to help with your pH, and algae-killing crystals blended into the mix. The best part about Smart Shock is you can shock and swim in as soon as 15 minutes later. So we're not setting the chlorine level so high that you can't go back into the pool for several hours. You put it in, and as soon as 15 minutes later, your chlorine level's where it needs to be, and you're able to get back into the pool. So you accomplish what you need to do, you shock the pool, you break down the contaminants, and you very quickly are able to resume swimming. Besides Smart Shock, we have other options for shocking the pool. So that's not the only thing that you can use. We have our Burnout 3 product and our Burnout 73 product. Those are both calcium hypochlorite based products. They're really good for shocking. Both of them may be a little better suited for troubleshooting. So if you're trying to clear up an algae problem or cloudy water, sometimes those are the products you would reach for, whereas Smart Shock is a little better suited for your weekly shocking. If you have an ionizer on your pool, Easy Shock and Swim is the best option for you on a weekly shock because it doesn't add any additional metal to the water. And finally, we have our Oxy Sheen product, which is not a chlorine product, but it is a non-chlorine monopersulfate-based shock product that is great for breaking down contaminants, but doesn't raise your chlorine residual at all. This product is especially good for saltwater pools when you have plenty of chlorine residual, but you need to make sure that you're breaking down some extra contaminants. So all of these options are fine for step 2. You can use any of them in your weekly maintenance program. Let your Bioguard dealer help you decide which one works best for you and will be most effective for your pool chemistry situation. We've talked about step 1, which is sanitizing, and step 2, which is oxidizing. So now let's take a look at step number 3, algae prevention. Now, algae prevention is important because algae is constantly being introduced into the pool environment. Whether it's through rain or wind or runoff, there's a lot of different places algae spores come from. Now, when those algae spores get into the water, if they don't get killed, they reproduce and they grow, and eventually 10 spores become 100, become 1,000, become an algae bloom. So we have to make sure we keep them from growing and reproducing. Now, chlorine can be an algicide. It's technically classified as an algicide, and some people say, well, I don't need to add a preventative algicide. I'll just let my chlorine do the work. And you could do that. However, you're relying on your chlorine to kill bacteria, and then you're adding more chlorine to shock the pool and break down contamination. If you're also relying on chlorine to prevent algae, you're asking an awful lot of the chlorine that you're putting into the pool. So look at it this way. As long as you have a chlorine residual, you would be killing algae spores. But what if your chlorine residual drops below 1? It's happened to everyone. You go out, you test your pool, and for some reason, whether you had a party or it was hot, your chlorine residual is 0. If you're not adding a preventative algicide, when that chlorine residual drops below 1 part per million, those algae spores are able to grow and reproduce unchecked. So those 10 spores become 100, become 1,000, become an algae bloom, all because you didn't have any chlorine in there to stop it. Don't rely just on your chlorine to do the work. Add the preventative algicide on a weekly basis. You're actually going to add it in an initial dose to start off with to create an algicide bank, and then you're going to top up the levels on a weekly basis. So even if your chlorine level does drop below 1, you still have protection in the water against algae. You won't get an algae bloom. So let's take a look at some of the algaecides. Bioguard Algae Complete is a dual action algicide that's honestly the best algicide in the business. It combines the benefits of 2 different algicide or algae killing technologies into the same formula. It kills and prevents green, black, and mustard algae, doesn't foam when you put it in the water, and it's suitable for all pool sizes and all pool types. Comes in a larger bottle, so not only do you have plenty for your weekly maintenance and your preventative algae routine, but if for some reason you did end up with a problem, you would already have the product on hand and enough in the bottle to do an algae treatment if necessary. There is no algicide that's going to be more complete and no algicide that's going to work faster. So for step number 3, Algae Complete is the premium Bioguard algicide for that step. There are some other options available for step 3. Besides Algae Complete, which is, like I said, is the strongest, we have Backup 2, which many of you have used and really like, and that's not going anywhere. Backup 2 is a great algae preventer. It's not really aimed for treatment, so if you do end up having a problem with an algae bloom, you're going to want to go to either the Algae Complete or the other algicide we have available, which is Banish. Banish is a highly effective copper-based algicide and really good at both prevention and maintenance. Most of the time it's used as a troubleshooter, a product to be used when you already have an algae bloom. But it could be used as a maintenance product if you chose to. So if you don't want to do Algae Complete, Backup 2, Banish, those are options for you for your step 3. Again, your Bioguard dealer can help you determine which algicide is best for your situation. That wraps up the 3 kind of non-negotiable steps to pool care. So we sanitize, we oxidize, we add a preventative algicide. But if you add one more step, one extra product, you can really enhance your water quality and make everything easier. As far as water balance, keeping your pool clean and clear, making the water sparkle, everything just becomes easier with just one extra step. So let's look at the options for that. Bioguard Optimizer is another great product to consider adding to your overall pool maintenance. Now this is a little bit different. It's not added on a weekly basis. It's a borate-based product that you add one time, and once you establish your residual, it doesn't really go anywhere. So you're adding optimizer to the water, you establish your residual, and then you might have to add a little bit of optimizer the next season when you open your pool. But once you put it in once, it kind of sticks around for you. Now, what does optimizer do? It makes water easier to balance and maintain water balance. It softens the water immensely, so you will physically feel a difference in the way the water feels on your skin and your hair. And you will see a different kind of sparkle to the water when you add optimizer. So if you compared a pool with optimizer next to one without, you would actually be able to see a difference in the clarity and the sparkle of the water. So this is just a great add-on product that really prevents problems from happening. Another layer of insurance if your water balance is not where it's supposed to be or your chlorine residual drops for some reason. Optimizer gives you another layer of protection against problems.
Wow, that's some great information. For anyone just recently joining us, thank you for attending. Let us know you're here. Say hello. Post a question you might have. We have our pool professionals on standby to answer any question you have. Posting in the comments will automatically put you in the running for our next and last prize drawing. If you have any questions, please post them. We'll respond shortly. We'll be concluding this year's pool school with a look at saltwater care.
So we've talked about chlorine and the 3-step system and sanitizing your pool. But what about salt? Many of you will have a saltwater pool. It's very popular. It's a great way to take care of your pool, and it makes pool care maintenance somewhat easier in the big scheme of things. So what's different about salt? Saltwater pools simply take a salt molecule, which is NaCl, that's sodium, and chloride, which is chlorine. And they use a cell or a chlorine generator that goes into the plumbing of the pool system, and it breaks apart that salt molecule and introduces chlorine into the water. Salt is transformed into active chlorine that kills bacteria and algae and does all the things that traditional chlorine that you might otherwise add with a stick or tab does also. So it's still a chlorine pool, but we're creating that active chlorine from a salt molecule to start with. How does that happen? How does the salt cell work? Well, it's really pretty simple. Inside those salt cells, there's metal plates, and those metal plates will conduct electricity back and forth through them. So the salt water passes through over those metal plates, the electricity passes through the plates, and that's how the salt molecule gets broken down. Again, you're creating an active sanitizer from a salt molecule. That's the only thing you're replacing, though. And while you are creating sanitizer continuously, you may still need to shock the pool occasionally, and we actually recommend doing that on a fairly routine basis. So the salt generator only really replaces the need for the chlorine sticks or tabs. You're still going to need to balance the pool, and you're still going to need some regular maintenance products. So just make sure that with a salt pool, it's not just adding salt. You do still have to do some pool maintenance activities. A couple of things to point out with saltwater pools. First of all, there's some myths that we need to address. First and foremost, there's a myth that saltwater pools use salt as a sanitizer and you don't use any chlorine. Well, first of all, the salt creates chlorine as a sanitizer. So you are technically using chlorine. And in some cases, you may need to add additional chlorine to the system, whether it be because the water's cold and the salt cell's not functioning yet, or maybe the bather load is super high, you've had really bad weather, and the salt cell can't keep up and make enough chlorine. So there are instances with salt pools that you may be adding additional chlorine to help out your maintenance program. Another myth is that saltwater pools don't need algicide or shock, and that's just not true. Shocking the pool on a regular basis still helps break down contaminants, and it keeps you from needing so much chlorine out of the salt cell. The higher you have to turn the salt cell up, the quicker it's going to fail, or the shorter its life is going to be. So shocking on a regular basis will help you keep the dial turned down a little bit lower and help that salt cell last longer. Finally, there's a myth that saltwater pools require no maintenance, and that's, again, simply not true. You still have to balance saltwater pools. You still have to pay attention to your pH and your alkalinity. pH especially. In the process of breaking down the salt molecule, pH in a saltwater system rises. It's just part of the process. There's nothing you can do to stop that from happening. So in your saltwater pool, you're going to consistently battle a high pH. Adding a pH reducer on a regular basis should be part of your routine pool care maintenance. Now, Bioguard has some products and programs that help make saltwater pool care maintenance easier. First of all, we have our Saltscapes line, and our Saltscapes line is just a series of products made for saltwater pools that will help you keep your water in balance. These products will help keep your pH down, they'll help protect your cell from scale buildup, they'll help you clean your cell. They provide the Saltscapes line provides a whole line of products aimed at helping you maintain your saltwater pool, keep it balanced, and keep it functioning the way it should be. If you have a saltwater pool, we're going to talk about another option here in just a minute, but if you have a saltwater pool and you're trying to figure out how to maintain it, talk to your Bioguard dealer about what Saltscapes can offer you. One thing you really need to be aware of with salt cells is the fact that they do tend to get scale buildup on those metal plates that you see inside of them. And the higher the pH, which we talked about, the more likely you are to get scale buildup. So a couple of things that you can do. First of all, in the Saltscapes line or in the Mineral Springs line, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, we do offer products that are scale inhibitors that are going to help keep that scale from building up on those metal plates. These scale inhibitors are going to help reduce the amount of scale, but they probably won't be able to stop it completely. So as scale starts to form, your salt cell becomes less efficient and you struggle to create the chlorine that you need to create in order to have the chlorine residual that you're looking for. So in your salt cell, you are going to want to physically clean that cell every 6 to 8 weeks. Might be a little more often if you live in a really hard water area, or a little less often if you don't live in a place where you tend to get a lot of scale. But every 6 to 8 weeks is a good rule of thumb. We do offer our Saltscape Cell Cleaner for this job, and this is a great product because really all you need to do is plug off one end of your cell, dump the cell cleaner in and let it go to work, and then after it has a chance to work, usually about 15 minutes, you can dump it directly into your pool. It's not going to hurt your chemistry, and it is sequestered so that the calcium that you remove from the cell doesn't cause you any problems. As you can see, there is some maintenance that needs to be done for saltwater pools. And you might say, okay, that sounds great, but I wanted the easiest way when I agreed to a salt pool. And we have that. Bioguard offers the absolute easiest pool care maintenance program that you can get, and that is our Mineral Springs system. So once you get Mineral Springs started in your pool, you're only adding one product once a week. That's it. That's the entirety of your pool care maintenance. So it offers silky, soft, smooth, extremely clear water by adding only one granule product one time a week. It doesn't get much simpler than that. The Mineral Springs system comes in 3 parts, but 2 of the parts you only do one time a season. So Mineral Springs Beginnings is going to add salt to your water and balance out your salt level. Along with that, you're going to get water softeners, you're going to get the same technology that you find in Optimizer, so you're going to have soft water that way that's easy to balance. You're going to get some stabilizer in the water in order to help keep the chlorine that you are creating stabilized and protected from the sun. So all these things are going to go in the water when you put your beginnings in. Again, one time a season, and really that's used to balance out your salt level. Now, once a season also, you're going to add Mineral Springs Scale Inhibitor. That product is something that you add in the very beginning of your season and you never have to add it again. Because once you do those 2 things, you switch to Mineral Springs Renewal. And Mineral Springs Renewal is the only product that you're going to need to add over the course of your pool season. So with that product, you're adding a little bit of salt, but that's not really the point of the product. You're adding a little bit of salt, but along with that, you're going to add your pH reducer that's going to help bring your pH down on a weekly basis. You're going to add a little bit of cyanuric acid or stabilizer to make sure that your chlorine is protected. You're going to top off the levels of your scale inhibitor that you added at the beginning of the season so that you're constantly protecting the cell. So this product, once you put it in, does everything you need it to do in the pool. It's the closest thing to the one-stop shopping that most people want when taking care of their pool. So as far as salt pools go, it doesn't get any easier than the mineral spring system. Many people want to know, how do I get the most out of my salt pool? And it's really very simple. If you choose the mineral spring system, you're going to get the most out of your pool just by going on the system. But that's not the only way. If you choose to go maybe with the Saltscape's approach to saltwater pool care, you need to do a few things to make sure that you're getting the best experience you can possibly get with your saltwater pool. First of all, make sure the pool is balanced. That protects the equipment and the swimmers that are using the pool. You may want to add some additional oxidizers instead of just using the salt cell to do all the work. So shocking every other week even can certainly be helpful to maintaining the expected pool environment. You will want to add stabilizers. The Saltscape stabilizer or mineral springs blend will do that for you, but that's going to help protect the chlorine that you are making with the cell and make it so that the cell doesn't have to work quite so hard. Finally, utilize the Saltscapes line or mineral springs to provide a complete system of pool care. It's not as simple as just adding salt. You do need to do some other things to help make sure that pool is functioning properly and provide you the expected environment. To finish out this school, I want to talk just about a couple of products that I feel like are important for you to know about. First and foremost, you want to make sure in your pool that you have enough stabilizer. And we didn't really talk about stabilizer when we talked about chlorine, but the point of stabilizer in the water is basically like a sunscreen for chlorine, right? So it goes in and it puts sunscreen on the chlorine so that the UV rays of the sun don't break it down. Without stabilizer, chlorine has a half-life of about 35 minutes, which means every 35 minutes you lose half the chlorine that you have in the water. With stabilizer in the water, that half-life goes to 6 to 8 hours. So it's going to last a much longer time in the water and not get burnt up by the sun in the presence of stabilizer. Now, stabilizer comes in a couple different forms. There is a granular form, but that can be difficult to add to the pool. So if you need stabilizer, consider using the Bioguard Instant Stabilizer, which is a liquid product. Very easy to get into the water. You just broadcast it out into the pool, and you can get your stabilizer residual where it needs to be. Finally, let's talk a little bit about Bioguard Smart Shield. Smart Shield is basically a liquid solar cover. If anybody has one of those big, bulky blue bubble wrap, that's a lot of bees, big, bulky blue bubble wrap solar covers, you know that you put them on at night. It helps hold the heat in the water so that the pool stays warmer and your water just overall warms up faster. So those are great. They work wonderfully. The only problem with those covers is you have to yank them off the pool and then you lay them in the yard and you don't want to put them back on because they're a pain. And a lot of times they end up just laying by the pool and the water stays cold. Smart Shield is going to do the same job that the liquid solar or the regular solar blanket does, but it's a chemical, it's a liquid. And it actually keeps heat in the water by forming just a really thin mononuclear layer on top of the water that holds the heat in. It keeps evaporation from occurring, and it actually keeps you from losing energy from the surface of the pool. So less challenging to manage than that bulky solar cover. You add Smart Shield once a month. It's working all the time because it's always in the pool, not just when you've got that blue solar blanket on. And it's constantly trying to hold energy in the pool and warm the pool up. This is a great way to extend your swim season in the spring and in the fall, and just a really good way to conserve energy in your pool. So consider using Smart Shield on a monthly basis to help warm up your pool and cut down on the amount of energy that you lose. Thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate you taking the journey through your pool anatomy and the importance of water balance and how to maintain your pool properly using Bioguard chemicals. Please know, all you need to do is visit your Bioguard pool care professional. They can troubleshoot any of your problems, they can test your water, and they can help you with anything that you might need. Thank you for choosing Bioguard.
That concludes our second annual online pool school. Thank you so much for being with us. Let us know what you thought. And of course, feel free to ask any questions you might have. Our pool professionals are on standby and are ready to help. Before you go, make sure to like us on Facebook if you haven't already. Remember, you've earned 25 points on our new exclusive rewards program just for joining us today. When you purchase pool chemicals in the future, you receive 1 point earned for every dollar spent on select products. Once you get 250 points, you'll automatically receive a $25 credit. It's that easy. Points do expire after 90 days of inactivity, so be sure to come in, stock up before your points go away. We'll hang out here for a bit longer, continue to answer any questions you have. Have a great evening, and thank you again from everyone here at Energy Center Manhattan Pool.